Hello, lovely people. What do we got here? It is Happy Halloween, Happy Tuesday. It looks like everything is working. Things have adjusted a little bit here. David, good to see you. Yeah, we're streaming to YouTube and to the Twitches. I think everything's hooked up. I moved things around because of the way the cameras are set up now, and yeah, I think we're in business. David, I decided not to this year. I thought I would just wear my pajamas like I usually do. This is a onesie. Dee, hello. Lovely to see you. See, and if I weren't on the YouTube, I would have missed out on Dee. Can't miss out. It's fantastic. Today we're going to sculpt some stuff for the next book, the next project, which is the cleric subclass book I'm working on called Metadomain, the Prayer's Handbook. Oh, I have to turn off the email so we don't get beeps the whole time. I can quit the mail, can I? I can do that, yes. As a disgruntled IT guy. Hey, Telemont. Yeah, this is the laziness. I could have just gone on with like I could have just put on like I've got like armor. I've got like there's a closet full of cosplay stuff, and I've just this is just a shirt. It's easy, but also it's made with space age polymers and they chafe, and so I'll probably be there'll be a costume change at some point during today's broadcast. But we're going to work on some illustrations for the next book. I think we're going to sculpt some magic tomes. And much like the Intoximancy book, which you get your character, in that case, your wizard gets a magic flagon, which levels up with you, and it has a unique design. I put some examples of those designs, goblets and chalices and things like that. In this case, I want to show different kinds of books, different kind of magic books. They're not for printing, so it's all about how they look on the screen. This was the cover source material for, let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna just see if I can fix this really quickly. I don't want spoilers, and I don't want to show work for some other stuff that I'm currently doing. Helping out a friend with some work, and I don't think I got the clearance to share that with anybody just yet. But this is one of the covers for the Prayer's Handbook so far. You can see, I think I have these layers hidden up top. That's how the work starts. I sculpt something over in Nomad Sculpt, export it in a pretty high resolution, kind of lit the way I want, and then I paint over it. And just paint over it and paint over it to the point where I like it. It still feels a little Rankin Bass to me. It still feels a little 3D modeled. So there'll probably be more tweaking. The reason why I think is that this piece has a lot more uniformity to the lighting. You know, the characters lit from the side of the book. They're lit from that orb that's in the air. And those things combine to kind of give it a very well lit design. So I could work in some more shadows. I think I might have to. Specifically, that highlight side of the face. Like currently it's very yellow on the... How are we doing that? It's very yellow on this side of the face. I think if I make this area much darker and then just have that kind of light be... You know, it's fake it. Like just fake rim lighting on the side of the thing. Not the full-on tanning bed, which it currently is. But let's see what we can do. Let's see what we do. Actually, I wasn't going to work on this just yet, but let's jump right into it with this piece and loosen up a little. And then we'll get back into sculpting. I'm switching my space goggles. I hope everyone's having a lovely Halloween. My neighborhood doesn't get trick-or-treaters, so there's not much for me to do. A few years I had set up, I put up all sorts of decorations and things like that, but there just is nobody here. So let's try this. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it, but I figure let's put on a big brush here. This is just for getting a sense of the shading. Like, will this work? Will I dislike it least? Just like a little less. I don't want to reduce the glow of the book because I love it. I think it's I think the magic book is core to this subclass. So it should stay magical and glowing, but I just don't know if I'm going to have to just live with the brighter, more uniformed lighting. So this is all on a layer set to multiply, I think, with using that dark blue shadow that's sort of a default for almost all the shadows I put in here. For folks asking about pencil to pencil, we're going to take a little break. I think we're going to come back at the end of November. And people are asking about Mike. Mike's health. Mike is doing better. I just spoke with him. I don't feel like it's my place to talk too much, but I can just say that everyone who's wondering, he's doing much better. But we'll use this opportunity to do some stuff. I want to also adjust some graphics. He made a full-on post on Facebook about technically an infection, and it affected his legs, and so I think specifically one leg. And so he's got a full-on post about it, all the rather gory details. I think it's a public post as well, so I don't feel too... I don't think I'm giving away any... Oh. I don't think I'm giving away too many confidences. But, yeah, something like that. Just feel better? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking... Maybe I'm overthinking it? Yeah, I can live with it as it is. I'm not gonna belabor this anymore. If this cover is slightly less let me try this. If it's, I don't know, all the covers I've done so far I could find fault with, and they bother me a little bit, but done is way better than perfect. And I can't ever get to perfect, so at least done is achievable. I think something like that. That's kind of harsh. But help give it some form. Don't hate that. Matthew, did you tell him did I detail the Model C yet? No, this one had a closed mouth in the sculpt. I presume I'm dressed as one of the insane Commodores. No, he would have a different, like Commodore Deckard had a different symbol, didn't he? Who was the Irishman? Riley? I've got captain's bars, but that insane Irishman who is murdered. Yeah, I think something like that. Kind of a follow the form a little bit here. But good to see you, Matthew. I think I have to soften it once it gets to the hairline a little bit. So this is the difference before and after. That's fine. I just think it just needs a little more weight. And the more I can do to change it from what the 3D model gave us, the happier I am. I like the 3D model a lot. I'm really happy with it. I think it's going to make an excellent mini, but it is a but it's a far cry from a painting. Yeah, I did remember that telling about the the game that was crashing because they included every tooth of the characters. Putting in some extra shadows in here. I had declared this piece done. so much for me. Just a little extra shadow just helps give it a little more volume. I was worried that it was all washed out. And all this is happening on top of some other layers that we have to kind of blend this character to the background. Also this shirt is just kind of like the laziest dad costume for Halloween. I haven't heard a Christmas jingle yet, but I had to go through a store today and it was just decorated for Christmas. I went to Michael's and they don't even have Halloween. I think it was 2 days ago. They didn't have a single Halloween thing up except in like some remainder bin, and everything is just Christmas trees and like it's still summer, right? It's still summer. Can we all barbecue? I like that better. I know it's rough. It looks a little bit like he's got graphite on his face, but I can soften that up. But as folks may have heard, that last week I came back from Gamehole Con. It was a great convention. I want to make sure people don't think I'm knocking Comic-Cons, but in terms of the vibe of the place, it was so much more chill. The big difference, I would say, between any Comic-Con I've ever been to and this small sampling of only one gaming show I've ever been to, is that the gaming show it's just not for shopping exclusively, whereas Comic-Con kind of feels like that. Yes, there are panels. Yes, you can meet your authors. Yes, there's cosplay events and costume contests and things like that. But by and large, Comic-Cons have felt like you pay admission to shop. The smaller shows specifically. As they get larger, they tend to have more events. You might have a celebrity who is going to have a panel and take questions and answers, things like that, where there really isn't a product except to stand next to the person, take a photograph, or to get them something autographed. But the gaming event, people weren't there to shop. That's not why they go there. They go there to play games. And it was cool to be set up and selling stuff, and I did fine. But it was so much more laid back. So it was really interesting. And there's not a creating stuff for 5th edition of D&D. It's a different situation because in comics, people will immediately look at the style of the piece and think, is this for them? They'll see Usagi Yojimbo and they'll immediately make a decision. This isn't my kind of comic. This isn't my kind of art style. I don't like stories that are cartoony, or I don't like stories about feudal Japan, or whatever the prerequisite that a person's bringing with them to the event. Like, I'm here for Batman stuff. I'm here for Deadpool stuff, or Adventure Time, or whatever the heck it is. They have a pre-existing fandom that they're bringing with them. They have a pre-existing taste that they're bringing with them. That applies in the fantasy, in the RPG side, in as much as I play Dungeons and Dragons, or I play Pathfinder, or I play Morkborg, or Mothership, or Zweihander, or one of those things. They play other games, or they just play Cards Against Humanity, whatever they play. So someone will come to my table and they'll say, "Oh, this looks neat," and then they'll find out it's for Dungeons and Dragons, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't play that. I play something else." They're like, "Oh, you should make this for Pathfinder." Get a lot of that. Tell them, good to see you. I don't mind this stuff early. I don't mind the Christmas stuff early because I know it's my intention of always trying to prepare as far ahead as possible. I just feel like sometimes you're missing out on the other holidays that you can enjoy but I think they know where the money is. I've already seen ads and emails for early Black Friday sales and things like that. I might lower the opacity of that layer some more. I think that adds a lot. I think that helps highlight that area in a way. I think. I will cogitate on that. All right. So let's get back to some 3D sculpting. I don't have to save in this program. I did see that I've been looking at Procreate Dream. Is that what it's called? That is their upcoming I could see that. I'm looking at this on I have two different covers. One is the nighttime one and one is the daytime one. I could see that same effect happening on the side of the face for the daytime version. All right, let's get into the 3D sculpting program. And if folks want to get the placeholder, check out the placeholder for the next Kickstarter. There it is. Okay. So we're going to sculpt some magic books. So we'll create a new document. We'll turn on matcap. We'll sip some coffee. I hope everyone's having a beautiful day. I'm still very much jazzed from Gamehole Con. It was a wonderful convention. Unfortunately, I was slated to go to Twin Cities Con this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it. When I got back from Gamehole Con, as I mentioned last week's stream on Thursday, there's a burst water pipe. And so because of that, I can't leave. How do we want to sculpt this? We're going to be looking down at the front of the book, I think. Yeah, it was a real mess. And so they were in bright and early yesterday morning. I want the pages to fold. Do I want this to be a closed book, an open book? I think an open book. We have a closed book that's a placeholder illustration. Let's do an open book, because maybe that could be at the bottom of a page. It's just open, and maybe magic and things are coming out of it. But and the work's going really well. New flooring was put in yesterday in the hallway. And they're going to work on the rest of it next week, at the end of this week and next week. But I started today's stream a little bit later than I would have liked, because I was people were coming in and inspecting stuff and planning the next steps. Oh, this is a trick. Can we do this? Yeah, you know what? I bet we can. Let's do this. Let's move this to the origin. I'm gonna create this as a single piece. I think let's try something. I really like this program that I can mix and match some of these techniques. I was talking about Procreate Dream, which is Procreate's animation solution. I'm really excited about it. It's going to have frame-by-frame animation. It's going to have some tweening so that you can... I don't know anything about like adding rigging, skeletal systems and all. Like you can't put like you can't draw an arm like you could in After Effects and put a pin here, a pin here, a pin at the wrist, and then move each piece, and it would sort of morph the whatever's on that layer in accordance with where you've placed those pins. I don't see anything like that in it, but it does have a ton of other intuitive tools, and it's sort of like Procreate in that it's not expecting people who use it to be like Photoshop experts or to be masters of the program. It feels like a thing where you can just kind of a very welcoming set of tools, which I think is really kind of cool. As someone who hasn't done much animation, I'm excited to try. All right, so the idea with this is we have our book cover, and I'm going to select sections of it and move part of them, and that should create nice little that should create the divots that would be the those kind of indentations around the spine. Maybe it'll work. So we'll use the selection mask tool. Mirroring is on. We'll use the rectangle tool. I want to increase the resolution. Go to voxel remesh. The higher the resolution, the cleaner these lines will be. So a moment ago they were very fuzzy. I wanted there to be a little more crisp. So the part that's selected will not move. We'll do a middle bit here. And so if we look at it from the side, or the bottom, now we're going to move this. The parts that I just darkened should not move. Hey, Cave. How are ya? This is the back of it. Let's shrink that a little bit. I'm going to rotate this thing back along the red axis 90 degrees. I think that'll go the right way. Nope. So we'll go negative 90 degrees. And then we will bake it. That'll kind of resets all the numbers to where it is. Put some pages in here. I feel like those divots could be more pronounced, but yeah, they're fine. I had a phone interview with some health company for a customer service job. I hate it, but a job's a job, I guess. Well, I'm glad. Hey, Eric, how are you? If we go by TNG era rules, gold is only operation. I can't scroll up. Oh, I can over here. I mean, only operations. Only. All right. So let's use the selection tool. I wonder if this would work. If I use a selection mask tool, it's gonna undo that selection. Turned off mirroring, right? And now if I move this with symmetry on, will it move it? No, it will not. The other side stays locked. Okay, that's kind of cool. All right. So we'll do pages, and what I was thinking about this is we will use... How do we want to do this? The trouble with this program not doing extrusions is I could build them with the triplanars, but I keep thinking there's an easier way to do this, and it might be just using rectangles, boxes. Validate, scale. What we're doing is we're sculpting some books for the next subclass book I'm doing for clerics, with the idea being that clerics in the subclass get a magic book, and much like the intoximancy books, they are unique. Each cleric's book is a unique book. It looks unique. I mean, the stats are all essentially generated through the same process, and they level up just the way the flagons do. But how they look should be particular to the character. And so I like putting a few examples in the book of what those might look like. Plus, they're fun to sculpt. So we will now take the trim tool and the polygon tool, turning symmetry off. I think it gets pretty clear what I'm doing with this. I'm going to we're going to punch through that material with this shape. Interesting. I think it cut through it weirdly. That's a shame. I think I can res this up. I think it was too low an object, maybe too low a quality object. No, it did it again. Very interesting. Huh. That's super weird. I love it. I was also watching on YouTube while I was waiting for the Twitch ad to go away. I wonder how much time you'll save if you switch to another program that does extrusion. You know, that simple concept. Yep. Absolutely. I've wondered about that. Or just coming up with a alternative way of handling that, right? Like a I have never seen this kind of issue with the extrusions before. Normally these things act like a real laser right through the object. There we go. Apparently just needed a few more pixels. Alright, so now this is something I want to cheat with. I realize I wanted to do this. Okay. So we will use the selection mask tool. We will look at this from the top. We will turn off front facing vertex. So it says front facing vertex only. We're going to check that box. It should be right there. You can't see it with my bright background here. But I'm going to draw on this with the square tool. Ooh, I'm going to remesh this first. I saw that those edges were very funky. So we're going to go all the way through. And that's fine. Even if it gets the sides, I can live with that. And then we will extract. Maybe not that thickness. What the blazes? I'm a little thrown off by why it's overlapping the shape so much. Again, I totally agree with you, Cave. If I had a something that would do extrusions, this might not be a problem. Do not. I don't understand what's happening here. All right, so it's too thin. Okay, okay. Fascinating. All right, there's another way we can do this. I'm not sure if it's because the objects are so small on the screen. Let's do this. We will clear that selection. I will select both of the objects in the environment, and I will scale them up. Hopefully that'll give us more to play with. How are we doing? All right. So another solution is to clone this thing. And then slide it up, clone it again, slide it down, enlarge it. Invisible and voxel remesh. That should knock the bottom thing out of the top thing, creating a single page, which is kind of what I was going for in the other, by extruding pieces from it, but this will work just as well. I'm going to clean up the edge there by using the line tool. Save and sip some coffee. How we doing? Yeah, I'm gonna definitely take a break momentarily and change this shirt. These space age polymers, not that friendly. Also feels a little like Stolen Valor. There's tribbles in my, what does it say, in my coffee and chicken salad sandwich. Now I want a chicken salad sandwich. I was watching a video yesterday about Harlan Ellison's City on the Edge of Forever script, and the person breaking down what we know about the script. And there was IDW, a comic book publisher, published a version of Ellison's original script. And the reviewer was comparing the two versions and what worked and what didn't work. I thought they were very fair about it. I don't think they... I think they picked, in terms of, you got to pick sides and everything, right? You always have to do that. You can't not pick sides. That's why the internet was created, I believe. and kind of standing up for Ellison's vision for the story. Moose, how the heck are you? But tell you what, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna have a costume change here and return to my normal civilian, my shore leave costume. I will be right back. Enjoy a wonderful bit of artwork from some of the greatest cartoonists and artists in the Omniverse. I will be right back. And I'm back. And I forgot, I have a more comfortable Star Trek shirt, because of course I do. This one was the company Anavos before they went bankrupt, I think, or belly up, or I don't know what happened to them, but they apparently owed a lot of people some Star Trek and Star Wars gear. But they made these kind of replica versions of the T-shirts that were out when I think when I was a kid. There was like a line of T-shirts, including a green version of this, which I would have loved to see. I think because someone misinterpreted something in the packaging, but it was a short sleeve shirt. Yeah, good look. I think it has a better collar, and the stitching and stuff they did was just amazing. Much more comfortable shirt. The other one was like it's like a rubies or some Spirit Halloween kind of shirt. Okay, let me use the pivot tool. Move the pivot point for this page down a little bit. Like, I don't know if I need to make... Do I need to make individual pages? I don't think I do. Steve is genetically engineered. Yes, I am. By an incompetent genetic engineer. So I could reset the pivot point of that. Click on the front. We will clone that. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to change this a little bit. It's kind of got a it's kind of got a bend in the middle of it. I'm not so thrilled with this shape, so I'm going to see if I can fix that with a better polygon. If I can do this properly. Boop. 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 That's better. I'm going to delete that original one. Take the new one. I think I'm going to redo all the pages, those 3 pages. I don't think that's a big deal. We're not losing much. But I think that curve is just so much nicer. We could do better. All right, so I will clone this. Clone it again. Enlarge it slightly. Scooch it a little bit. Invisible, select them both. Voxel remesh. That's just mean, Eric. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is the member of the Khan Noonien Singh family that nobody wants to hang out with. And for my money, I don't think J.J. Abrams can misfire ever. I think he is always right on target. I felt like the way he perfectly introduced Khan in that movie. No notes. You could tell it was really good the way probably every kid in every theater leaned over to their dad and went, "Who?" That's what you want in a movies should be about giving dads moments to explain things to their kids. Well, back in my day, Game Con, there was a conversation at one of the dinners, and they were talking about different horror movies and movies people should check out. I'm like, you know what's grossly underrated is the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie. I think it really stands up. I think a lot of people busted on it at the time, but I think if you watch it now, it's really, really good. I just think people just had different standards back then. It's really good. I like that there's streaming services and they're all fighting for content and they all want to have the latest content and the most, and the Dungeons and Dragons movie came out and it's very popular, and you'd think somebody would make available the old one, but they're like, nope, no, we don't need that one. That one can go away. We're fine with that one never being seen again. Let's do this. What I really like about that movie, in all seriousness, is that you think at some point that Jeremy Irons can't chew any more scenery, and you think that he's putting his health at risk. You think that man was never meant to chew that much scenery, and he just keeps going. He just keeps. I think it was the New York Times that said his performance was ravenous. That was their praise for his performance. I saw that movie because a friend of mine, I say friend, a friend of mine had seen it first and told all of us, "Oh, we have to go see it." So we sat in the theater. Trailers happen, lights go down, credits start to roll, or the movie starts, and I just hear in the darkness him snickering. Oh, why are you laughing? What's so funny? What you got worth living for? But honestly, I really enjoyed the film. Not for the reason I think the directors wanted me to. But really, really enjoyed it. There's a beholder in it. A lot like, and playing the game, you never got the sense that they were that tiny. And it looked like a piñata. It had, if you've seen Birdemic, you have a sense of the kind of high quality special effects at work here. It was pretty amazing. Eric, when are we going to get a movie watching? I would love that. I would love that. If you're able to, I have to laugh. It's because if I don't, I'll just stay serious about how good the movie is, and I'll just start talking. But I have to laugh because if people leave this thinking that I love that movie, that could lead to some problems. Like I could get a poster for it, which I would hang up. I would absolutely hang up. I think in all the lead up to the new Chris Pratt Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I think is the funniest thing in the world. The idea that you would describe anything as by the name of the actor in it. It just shows you how weak the material is otherwise. It's a new Chris Pratt New York Mets movie. I always think about it in those terms. It's like saying there's going to be a D&D movie tells you nothing about it. It's sort of like Star Wars now. It's a Star Wars movie. What's it about? Could be anything, really. It used to be that would be it's back before it was a brand, when it was a Chris Pine. What did I say? Was it what? Some Chris somebody. Yeah, Eric, I'm not sure which one I said. Chris Pratt? Did I say Chris Pratt? Chris Evans? Chris Hemsworth? Chris Christie? It was the Chris Christie Dungeons and Dragons movie. But there was a streaming service that had there was a streaming service that had the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Oh, that's what it was. It was YouTube. YouTube has it, and so if you have like the premium YouTube Premium, which I do, how's that for a brag? We want to flip this. World flip object. Save. So YouTube has the original Dungeons and Dragons movie, the 2001, and I got up to the credits. It is something. It is really. I would strongly recommend it. And if you go to archive.org, you can find the adventure that Hasbro Wizards TSR produced when the movie came out, The Sewers of Some Doll. It's a PDF. Not full-on D&D rules, but they thought, you know what? People who see that movie are going to want to play the game. And that PDF exists. That's a thing. Okay, so the idea is we're going to have a book here that will be a magic tome, the Prayer's Handbook, for... I want to adjust this a little bit. How can I do that? I think that's what I can do. I can scale this in horizontally to sharpen those little indents. Then selection mask the center of it. Well, we do that again with mirroring on just to make sure I got both sides. And then using the gizmo tool, I can extend it, and it shouldn't... Oh, it is affecting the middle somehow. Oh, that's right. That's my problem. I turned off front-facing vertex. So let's fix that. So using the selection mask tool... Front-facing vertex means it was only selecting the parts facing me and not the back or other sides of it. So that was going to cause a problem. So we can fix that. And now when we drag this out, we shouldn't see any kind of weird ghosting. Good. Better. I'm going to save this. I see the colors in the upper left turning bright red or deep red, which means it's running low on memory. Probably because these things are just a little too complicated. And they shouldn't be. This is still a fairly simple document. So let's go in here and, well, let's save first, and then I'm going to decimate these things to reduce the amount of space they're using. Gosh, that's not a lot. Yeah, 4 megabytes, that's nothing. Yeah, I'm not sure why it was groaning. I'm going to save this and open up another document just to kind of clear our palette a little bit here. This was a helmet I sculpted for one of the covers. It's kind of a take on the War Duke helmet. I created feathers instead of... the original one that Tim Truman designed has like bat wings. And this is... I went with feathers just to vary it up a little bit. Hey Cosmo, how are you? Cosmo from YouTube. I really enjoyed the middle-aged comic. What gave you inspiration to create it? I'm a comic artist myself, and I'm thinking of creating a series in the Middle Age era. Any tips right now doing research? Oh, wow. Well, mine is not very historically accurate. I think it really depends on the scale of your story, the scope of your story. If you're going to be telling if it's a short story that's only focusing on a couple of characters, you just need enough information to make that part feel right for the audience. Like, I think in Time Bandits, they stressed the lack of hygiene and dentistry in the Middle Ages. They kind of picked some elements of that time period and decided to focus on that for comedic effect. I think if if it's going to be a humorous story, those are things you can look at if you really want to be true to the time. That stuff never enters into the Middle Age. I really do appreciate the kind words about it. Mine is very much a fantasy. It takes place not on Earth, but in a Earth-like environment, where even the name of the planet hasn't come up in the narrative. So I don't know. I wouldn't let the research get in the way. Stories are about character. Stories are about like the pivotal moments between people. Generally speaking, the stuff you really care about. When you leave a theater and you're talking about a movie, it's rarely about it can be about a thing. You know, I think about that 8th Star Wars film, spoilers. They basically pull a warp speed attack on something, and it's a moment in the movie which is, maybe this is an indictment of how little character was in that film, but it's a very striking moment cinematically. But for the most part, the things you remember are those cool moments between characters, usually when someone surprises you. And I think those things, if you can have a few moments of surprise, genuine surprise, whether that's humor or some other reveal, even if it's not a surprise to the reader, if it's a surprise to another character in a way that hits them emotionally, I think that's the stuff people will probably take away from the thing. And that's infinitely more important, I think, than how accurate the building architecture is. I think it's not. I think those touches, I would say, dive in to the parts that interest you and play with those. Like if you're really interested in, the care of animals in that time period, focus on that. If you're really interested in candle making, focus on that. Those little touches of, those little things, if someone's doing something like making a candle in a way that a layperson would not know that's how those are made, or how they were made back then, those kinds of things, while a person's doing that while they're doing something else, as a background element, gives the world a little more gravity, I think. But there are other cartoonists in here. If anyone here has any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. The bat helm, yeah. Tim Truman did an amazing job with that helm of his. But what gave the inspiration for it? I was at a lot of things. I was at a Renaissance festival. That was kind of one of the triggers for it. This in Maryland. They have the Maryland Renaissance Festival. It's a glorious Renaissance festival in the woods, and has actual physical structures that are there year round, actual buildings, and they function as like the prime retail locations at the Ren Fair, and food service stations. Like I'm sure there's all the proper ventilation and everything you need for modern food service. But it's an amazing place. And there was a juxtaposition of all the people in costume and all the people not in costume, and the idea of taking a very light approach to the genre, because mine's a comedy, so I can get away with a lot of stuff. It has some hopefully touching moments in it, but first and foremost, it was a comedy. Like I was expecting the comedy had to propel the thing so I could keep making more stories. Like if it weren't funny from the jump, then I would never get around to I would never be able to tell the longer story. So it's sort of like the beginnings of a motion picture or a TV show. You got the first 5-10 minutes to really grab somebody, and that's kind of what I was thinking, especially given that it was going to be a web comic and there's just so many things vying for attention. And I'm middle-aged. That was part of it too. It's like a new part of the humor is going to be about a middle-aged guy, definitely past his prime, stuff I can relate to, who didn't take himself too seriously, who could be the butt of many of the jokes, and who could push back against a lot of the tropes, because there's so much humor to be found in, like, you take a trope and you just turn it on its head. I mean, even so much of that is because there's so much recycling in entertainment that even those things have, the spoofs of tropes have become tropes. I'm really surprised. This is still indicating that it's a very, despite the small size, it's taking up a lot of memory. Let's clear that selection. Undo that. Okay, so I'm going to separate that. Actually, let's do this first. I'm calling this group right page because when you separate an object, everything inside Nomad Sculpt takes on the name. So all these things became right page, right page, right page, that sort of thing. So the ones on the left, you'll never guess. Left page, separate. And we'll save. So I got back from Gamehole Con. It was a great convention. The Middle Age was very well received there. What I was talking before about how people come up and, or if they're interested in a Dungeons and Dragons book, they're like, well, I don't play D&D or I play something else. They didn't know what to, they're like, well, you know, I don't play D&D, so I have no use for the book you're selling. But when it came to the Middle Age, it's comics, and there's no system requirement. You like it or you don't. And I should have brought more books because it's a 4-day show. I think I sold out early Saturday morning, which just means I should have brought more. I did sell out of the Death Dealing softcover books, but I talked about that, how the zines did better than the hardcovers, but the hardcovers do better off my website. Oh, Cosmo, I'm absolutely happy to. Good luck with your comic. When you launch yours, please let us know. There's a Discord server where I have a little self-promo area. So by all means, go in there and plug the heck out of it. Moose says, you're not actually middle-aged, are you? Oh, heck yeah. I think Moose here, yeah, oh gosh, yes. I'm well, I have far fewer days ahead of me than I have behind me. And that's not just from watching that Dungeons and Dragons movie, although it makes me feel that. In cowardly fashion, I'm going to hide that. I might come across as slightly younger because I lack maturity. I did hear about this Panera iced tea thing where a person in Philadelphia, a young person, a college student, I think, was killed or died from too much caffeine, and apparently it's the lemonade has, I think I saw 500 milligrams of caffeine in it, in a large one, in like a 32 ounce, which is 2.5 Red Bulls, and I think there's free refills, so I have no idea why it's that potent. I think they call it charged lemonade. I think they made a point of, hey, there's caffeine in here. But gadzooks. I'm going to add some fake shadows in here so I can see things a little bit better. I'm 18. I'm a tweenager. That means I'm between heart attacks. I think that's what it means. And then Matthew Perry passed away. Could I be any more terrified? So I'm just aging the pages here of the book by cutting out some notches. And the idea is I want to light these and bring them into Procreate, and we're just going to add all sorts of writing on them, runes, and I do like the idea of having notes and things like that stuffed in them. The concept being that the clerics in the subclass are always collecting notes and things like that. I take showers, so oh! Well, thank you so much. I am Cosmo. I appreciate that. That is a little animation of the Middle Age, which is being done by an amazing animator. They are working on it in between other projects. I hope to share more of it when I can, but I did sample a little bit of it here, and it'll pop up whenever someone follows or raids or donates or whatever. I think I used it for pretty much everything. And so Cosmo, when I'm not doing the Middle Age webcomic, and that has been something that has been backburnered because of a lot of other comics projects I've been doing. I've also been doing some TTRPG stuff, which kind of takes a lot less brain power, because especially at this part where this stuff is very creative. It's world building in the world of the Middle Age, but it's not this final chapter of the Middle Age, which is something I've been kind of cooking, and it's a thing where the perfect is definitely not only the enemy of the good, but like aggressively so. So I've kind of I'm just biting the bullet and going to continue the story because, like I said, fewer days ahead than behind me. I got to get this thing done. I'm also I want to rotate some of these pages a little bit. I don't want this book to feel like a brand new page. It has some, like, that termites have gotten to. I want it to feel like a rougher book, and so I'm going to use the pivot tool to move this pivot point toward the center of the spine, so that when I rotate these books, they kind of rotate from the middle, and then the pages can fan out a little bit. But if folks are following the Pencil to Pencil channel on YouTube, as I mentioned before, there's going to be a little bit of a brief hiatus. We're looking at coming back at the end of November, and we may have an excellent guest lined up for that. Somebody asked me if following Gamehole Con would I be doing other gaming conventions, and currently no. I don't. I think I have to build up the number of products I have, and also do things like art prints and stuff like that. It's just a logical thing to have as an artist. I need to have more things on the table, so I'm just rotating these pages a little bit. This will help them stand out, I hope. I'm also going to do stuff like smooth out the edges. That will thin them out and help them catch the light a little bit. And for folks who are coming in late, this is a program called Nomad Sculpt. It is a $15 sculpting program. I love the heck out of it. I started sculpting during the pandemic, at least during the initial phases of it. I figured I wanted to come out of it a little bit healthier if I could, and at least a skill if I'm not going anywhere. And this program came out, and it was a one-time fee. I don't like subscriptions. if I can avoid them. And yeah, I think it's a great program. If you're a cartoonist, or an artist at all, I totally recommend it. I feel like it, as someone who had no sculpting experience before, I mean, modest. Like in the 90s, I used a program called Specular Infinity, which was basically all extrusion tools, maybe a lathe tool or something like that. So I understood X, Y, and Z coordinates. You know, I think most people do. But then hadn't touched it in 25 years. And then I did play around with Sculptress a little bit, which is basically this program with none of the complexity. It's basically just a ball of clay. That's it. And some mirroring tools. Maybe you could add other objects. I don't know. It was never something that I could get a handle on. But then this thing came out, and I immediately gravitated toward it. Telemont. They are being sent out now. They're going out in waves. I think 40 of them were dropped off at the post office yesterday. The burst water pipe here slowed things down, but did not affect any of the boxes for the most part. Anyone who ordered a large print off my website, those boxes were destroyed. That slowed things down, but I'm hoping everything's going to be shipped out this week. When this stream is over, I'm going to go right back to packing. The hardcover and deck combinations. Anybody who ordered extra, we're at the point now where a lot of the stuff is a little more complicated, where people ordered one more thing, so the things are not all standardized, I think. And I think there are about 70 more packages to go. So if yours is in that, I apologize if you're in the oh yeah, product didn't get damaged itself. Product fine. The two hurricanes from last year, I totally I don't want to say shored up. I took many precautions. Everything is off the floor. Everything's elevated a bit. I think the books for intoximancy and death dealing and all that stuff are elevated. The good news about the decks of cards, I mentioned that when the book, I never shared photographs of it because it was so heartbreaking, or potentially heartbreaking, is when the decks of cards finally arrived. 6 weeks late. FedEx just dumped them outside in the rain, not under any cover. And I checked again half an hour later. I was ready to go out to get some coffee. And the boxes were just there, soaked, absolutely soaked, falling apart. And thankfully all the card decks are individually wrapped. So they're all sealed, and none of them were damaged. Not a single card was injured. The box that they were in, destroyed. But the cards themselves, absolutely secure. So, thank goodness. I don't think I wanted to wait another 2.5 months or spend another... Well, that would be on them. That would be on them. I'm sure they would have insured it, and... when I saw the boxes, I immediately started taking tons and tons of photos. I just never shared those because it's just so depressing. And, I started writing a Kickstarter update with all the pictures, and I'm like, nobody wants to see this. I don't want to see this. And I just focused on the good news and posted pictures of the cards themselves. I don't mind mentioning them here because I know Twitch will delete these videos in 2 weeks' time, or YouTube. Actually, I guess YouTube will keep these, which is nice because the original YouTube videos that are still on there and in the archives, they have a terrible frame rate and lots of drop frames. So I'm glad at least the stuff we're doing now is a bit more solid. But yesterday they were coming in to replace flooring, and I knew that was going to happen. I just didn't know when, and I set my alarm for 8, and like at 8:05 they knocked on the door. So, and then cats have to be juggled, and all sorts of stuff. But it's always something. But I can't wait for everybody to get their cards. I love them. I think they turned out great. And what I might do with these is I might take these pages and rotate them 180 and use them on the other side. So I don't have to duplicate all these notches and things like that. Plus, since this is only reference for a painting, I can make other tweaks in the painting stage to make this a lot easier to look at, or to make it less obvious that I've flipped things. But I ended up canceling the Twin Cities Comic Con this weekend. They were bringing me out as a guest. I was very excited to go, but I would have been leaving here Thursday and coming back on Monday. But Monday morning at 8 a.m. I've got people coming in and putting in carpeting. So between that, there's no longer the dehumidifiers running and the fans running, but the place is in disarray, and I couldn't quite leave, which is a shame. I was excited about going to that. I don't think I'd ever been to the city before. I like just going to new cities and meeting new readers and introducing people to my stuff. That's always fun. I was surprised at GameholeCon at how many people had heard of Intoximancy. Most people didn't, of course, but the idea that anybody had was quite interesting. I don't hate that. I'm gonna save, sip some coffee. How are we doing on chat? I wash my hair. Occasionally we get Amazon packages where they just put them right outside the overhang. That's exactly what happened. There were two boxes, one large box of cards and one small box of cards. You know which one was at the bottom, the small one. The top box was soaked and teetering. I brought them in, and there was just all this water pouring out of the boxes. I was like, to the point where I'm like cutting them open, and it's like their boxes are just tearing, like because they're just so soaked through. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna man, if I rotate these now. That edge just looked a little sharp, so I'm just going to soften some of these a little more. And I'll put in creases and other things like that. I'm going to clone these. Darn it to heck. That's right. That's how angry I was. Oh, darn it to heck. Alright, let's try that one more time. Did we lose anything? A couple of rotations? Maybe a little smoothing? There is an automatic save function in this program. I've turned it off because it fills up the hard drive. It fills up the iPad with duplicate files, and it just fills up the whole thing a little too quickly. So I have that disabled. So let's save again. But I don't mind when things crash, unless I'm doing something really tedious. I don't mind if it crashes, because I'm sure the next time I work on it, things tend to go faster and better on the second try. And life needs more second chances. So I'll take those anytime I can get them. Okay. I'm going to delete the left page? No, I'm just going to hide them. Right page. Save. We're going to try to clone it again. Let's see what happens. There we go. Join them together. Okay. Now we will go to the top view. We will adjust the pivot point to the middle-ish. We'll look at it from this. That's great. Okay. Now we will rotate this along the green axis. Oh, we're going to bake it. And we'll rotate along the green axis 180. Let's see what happens. Almost like I know what I'm doing. Alright, so I can delete the other one. Actually, no. Oh, I want to select the whole group and delete the whole thing. We're going to save one more time, and a victory sip. Okay, so we're going to add some little scraps of paper that are sticking in and out of the book. And I don't know if I'm going to add a ribbon or not. I don't think I am. I think just the idea there'll be runes on the book is plenty. So let's change the lighting. That'll help a little bit here. Or scraps of paper first. Scraps of paper first. And how are we going to do that? We're going to look at it from the front, and I'm going to create a cylinder. We'll validate it. We'll rotate it along the red axis 90 degrees, so it should be facing us. We'll flatten it out. Then we will clone it, drag it down, turn it invisible, select the other one, and we will voxel remesh. Sure, keep sharp edges, why not? Then we'll use the trim tool, turning symmetry off with the line tool, and we will cut. So let's do that. We'll cut, and we will cut. No, let's go back. We'll cut, and cut. So before I slice and dice the little inserts, I'm going to clone this one, rotate it, scale it down. They all shouldn't be the same size. It's not like they're all post-it notes or something like that. Just the idea that they've put in little bookmarks and jotted down notes. So there were two jokes that. So my very first TTRPG book, Intoximancy, you probably all heard me talk about to death, is had a bunch of jokes about alcohol in them, lots of puns, and there were two that I feel like I missed. One of them actually is going to find a home in the Metadomain book. It was there's a D&D term called a grognard. You might have heard people say this. It refers to apparently the derivation is that these were folks in Napoleon's time. Like, these were French military officers. These tended to be the older ones who would complain. And given Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPG's history in wargaming and tabletop wargaming, grognard was a term they were familiar with, the kind of older folks who complained. And so that became the term that often the grognards in Dungeons and Dragons and in role-playing games in general will often self-identify as the older players who complain. And just that it has the word grog in it meant that I should have included it in Intoximancy and made it like grog themed. Like, these would have been complainers who had a flagon. So because of that, and because of grog, and because of Intoximancy, and because it's a meta phrase, it's a phrase that among people who play Dungeons and Dragons, that is going to find its way into the meta domain subclass. In the book for the new subclass. Because I want to have, just like with Intoximancy and Death Dealing, I want to have themed creatures and adversaries. And a grognard was one I was going to include before the grog phrase registered with me, which would have made a... Could have used that a year ago. But I'm going to save this view. Might be a better view. I'm going to save that one as well. Let's save. So this will be the view that it appears in the book. Like, basically at the bottom of a page, probably about the leveling up process for the Characters Magic book, or just any place where I need extra stuff. I want to have someone really liked that Intoximancy and Death Dealing are just loaded with artwork. I kind of feel like if there's 2 pages and there's no artwork on them, and that happens a couple of times in Death Dealing, there's just so much content in there, and charts and things like that, where I just couldn't fit anything in it. The 2 charts had to be facing one another because they complemented one another, or they would reference one another. So it's important to have them not jumping through the book, but have both pages right there. And they were so packed with info, there was no room on the page for artwork. That bothered me. I think I put up maybe a small D20 in one of the margins or something like that, or maybe a hint of a card. But it was really hard to squeeze more material in there. So this particular note, I'm moving up as high as I can make it so that it can appear, even if it's illogical for it to appear where it's appearing. Just so when I go to that view, it sticks up, right? So I don't mind cheating the mechanics of it all. Again, no one's going to print this thing out. This will never be available as an STL. This is just for purposes of creating a nice bit of reference for me to work from. those are the basics of it. Now I can scar those up. I still have to reduce the memory of some of these pieces. I think they're just taking up so much room. Like, how gigantic is this thing? It's super tiny. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where all the... Yeah, I don't know what's eating up all the space. All the... I might need to restart the machine. You just described my current playground. Out of the 3 sessions we've had so far, I don't think we got through without multiple complaints about how things are now. Like, how things are now in terms of the state of gaming, or the world at large. Yeah, coming from comics, complaining is such a usual occurrence. Oh, 5e, gotcha. So folks don't like the system. They don't like the way Hasbro's handling it all. Are they excited for Tales of the Valiant, or are they excited for a different system? Would they like to go to Pathfinder? Are they excited about Colville's system? What I like about Matt Colville's system, from what I've heard so far, is that it's economizing a few basic functions. And what I think is a really interesting way, there is a... like in D&D, you can roll a 19 to hit. You can roll a 19 and hit. You can roll a 15 and hit. You can roll a 12 and hit, because you have bonuses and things like that. That could push it up much higher to hit a target who's, no matter, could be incredibly well armored, very nimble, but you can still hit them with a low roll. Their system is that every point above what you needed to hit is damage done. So a 19 hits harder than a 15, hits harder than a 12. I like that. I think that just makes sense, because people have done that. You'll roll a 19 to hit, you're like, yes, absolutely wonderful, I hit, and then you roll damage and you roll a 1. By having those two things being disconnected, it allows for a person to roll a 12 to do much better than a person who rolls a 19. And they're not just including the number on the die. So if it gets modified from a 19, and this is early play testing, who knows what it'll be when Colville's system goes live. But if you roll a 19 and you add 5 to the roll, 24, and if you needed a 12 to hit, you will have done 12 points of damage. It makes sense. So people felt like they weren't, because they combined the two together, it felt like they were either not doing damage, they're not rolling damage, or they're not rolling the hit. I'm the 32-year-old playing with guys in their late 40s or older, and they're all old school D&D guys. I started in 3.5, and yeah, there are things I don't like, but it gets old real quick. Gotcha. Yeah, old guys complain. It's kind of, I can't quite tell whether it's the, I bet both. I bet both the system gets old quick, and I bet the complaining gets old quick. And some people are like, well, are you complaining about the complaining? And I'm like, I don't think that's the same thing. I honestly don't think it's easy for people to say that, oh, you're complaining, so maybe if you didn't complain, it's like, it doesn't. I like, but that's my cat yelling in the other room, demanding entry into here. I may have to deal with that. So I'm just going to smooth these out. And we're going to trim some more. I'm complaining about the complaining about the complaining. That's legit. Comic book stores were famous for that. And the thing is, it's often nothing gets resolved. And comic creators were famous for that. Like, they'll just sit around complaining about You know, I hear them complaining about stuff that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense to complain about it. It makes sense to talk about it. It just, the solutions are, you know, if comics are ever going to be popular again, it really requires an ad campaign by Warner Brothers, or, you know, Disney really should put an ad campaign to make comic books popular again. I don't know if that would do it. And by making that the solution, it kind of lets them not come up with anything else. It puts it on somebody else. And I feel like that's not helpful. And it's interesting because I'd hear it from indie people as well. Like if they just promoted comics, they'd do great, and then we could ride the wave. I'm like, why would they advertise anything that would promote anybody else? And if the comics departments are just really expensive R&D, which is what they seem to be nowadays. Like, you put out these comics so we have source material for our movies. Alright, I'm going to save again. Shane, how are you? How about just tell complaining stories that matter long term? Tell compelling complaining stories. My head's in the complaining. Tell compelling stories that matter long term. Yeah, it has the virtue of having never been tried. It is absolutely the way to go. It has absolutely the way to go. There's so many problems with the direct market that it'd be real easy just to go down that rabbit hole again. The retailers want to order the stuff that they know they can sell. The retailers want to order stuff that they like. That becomes this kind of weird bottleneck. And that can't say all retailers are the same, but that becomes a bottleneck for what the big companies will produce. The idea that comics are not a form of literature primarily in the United States, they are a collectible. Comic books, not graphic novels, not things, but comic books are first and foremost collectibles. And they're also a form of storytelling. It feels like maybe it's not overwhelmingly so, and there's definitely places where I think about Big Planet Comics in Bethesda, Maryland, and other parts of Virginia. I know Cards, Comics, and Collectibles. But even then, it's like there's still sections where these things are in bags, these things are in boards. The back issues matter. The books come out of the boxes from the diamond, and people are holding them up to the light and making sure the corners are crisp so they can go right into a bag. Not a lot of other art forms are collectibles. Certainly not other storytelling mediums that are collectibles. Shane, if you want something that focuses on narrative, send me a DM in Discord. I can send you a link. I have a D&D. I think I like this. Okay. So I'm going to drag out the cover a little bit more so it's visible, and I'm going to smooth out the edges. So let's bulletproof this a little bit. I'm going to remesh it, keeping sharp edges, and now try to smooth it out again. Keep it from collapsing. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to try one more thing and see if this works. Right page. Tell you what, in absolute confidence, I'm going to delete that other. Oopsie-doo. I'm going to delete that other thing. We're going to save. We're going to select it all and join it all together. it's good to see you, Shane. I am going to use the trim tool and the ellipse tool. Yeah, I can fix that in the painting stage. All right. Let's get some real lights in here. My world is good. It is. I got back from Gamehole Con a week and a half ago, on Monday. Okay, no, a week ago yesterday, and a week ago this morning. I woke up to a burst water pipe in my home, so a bit of a mess, but could have been worse. It could have happened while I was away. It could have happened before I went away, and then it would have stopped the trip from happening. It could have happened on the first day of the trip. Tons of stuff like that. Tons of easy to game out. A lot of worst case scenarios. Worser case scenarios. But apart from that trauma, been picking up the pieces and shipping out more death dealing things, and also preparing the next Kickstarter, working on more of the Middle Age. There are pleasant things in the world and the rest of in my real life, which I can expound on at some point. But yeah, overall, lovely. No complaints. The cover for Prayer's Handbook, the next Kickstarter, is coming along very well. The response to the Intoximancy and Death Dealing and the Middle Age were lovely at Gamehole Con. It was a real shot in the arm. It was very nice to see. Part of when someone backs a Kickstarter, they may not know what they're getting. They don't get to kick the tires the way you can at a convention, when you pick up the book, look through it, and then make the decision to buy it. And so a sale in a convention setting is very affirming. Just as all the people who came back from Intoximancy and signed up for Death Dealing, that was very affirming. But the responses have been great from people who've received their loot. There's always more to do. Always more to do. Oh no, comic. Whatever doesn't kill you gives you superpowers. Alright, let's add some lights. So we go to lit environment. We will add a light where. This will be a not sun, but spotlight. All the lights are spotlights. Make this a nice yellowy light, a little sunlight. Then I will, of course, I'm going to add a blue light to the side. That's what I do. Always, always, always. Blue light. A strong blue. Spotlight. Nope, I didn't mean to add a view. I meant to add a light. I'm going to save. I'm glad that went well for you. I know that you were slightly uncertain how you would go over there. Yeah, that's absolutely. I wasn't sure at all. I shipped a lot of stuff ahead of time. I checked 2 large bags of stuff. I had new banner backdrops for my booth. Trying a bunch of things. Big worrier. Proof the actors we paid to go to Steve's booth and say they heard of him actually went. Well, that's nice. I really appreciate that. You guys are real pals. That's actually... That's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's a very nice thing to do. All right, so this book cover, we'll make this a burgundy, rough, not metallic. We'll brighten it up. Oh no, let's go with a rich Corinthian leather. And for these scraps, let's change their color a little bit. Now this program crashed earlier, so I'm playing it trying to play it pretty safe here. I'm not trying to have this system do too much. Let's make that a little more golden yellow. Sweet. I got room for another light here. Let's save. I like that. That feels very painterly on the edge there. How we doing? All right, 6 o'clock. We've been at this for an hour and 54 minutes. I'm going to take another quick break, just stretch my legs. I will see everyone back here in a few minutes. This slideshow contains amazing artwork by some wonderful creators like David Peterson, Marty Bowman, Jeremy Vinar. Too many to count. That's not true. You can count them. I'll be back before you're done counting all of them. It happens twice, so don't lose count. See you in a minute. See you in 5. All right, and we're back. Hello, lovely people. So before I jump back on here, I exported what we created in Nomad Sculpt, that book, and I brought it over into Procreate. So all I do is hit render, transparent background, save it to, send it over to Procreate. So that's where we are now. That last piece of artwork you saw up there was David Peterson's. Before that was Jeff D., legendary Dungeons and Dragons artist. Some really inspiring stuff that got me cartooning as a kid and really into D&D. So he also was a co-creator of a game called Villains and Vigilantes, which one of the earliest superhero role-playing games. So to get started on this, I'm going to first come up with a nice gray background as our it's just kind of thing. This book is going to be all the artwork inside the RPG books I've created so far, whether it's Intoximancy or Death Dealing or the upcoming Prayer's Handbook. They're all against transparent backgrounds, so they can float on the page. And so I like to design them with a gray background, so I can see how they look against multiple different kinds of values. So I'm going to clone this, and so this is a 3D render, a model we sculpted here on the channel just now, and from this I'm going to paint over this and hopefully make it look like a magic book, or ruin it, one of two things. But the key to making it look painterly is to kind of break away from all the harsh straight lines that 3D modeling tends to do. 3D is great at straight lines, straight edges, and so what you kind of want to do, I think, at least what I try to do with these, is I try to break those up as best I can. Like you can see that straight line right down the middle of the book. Now I had turned on a kind of fake shading inside Nomad Sculpt. That's why you see that kind of texture there. That texture, I don't mind it too much. It feels a little bit like, almost like the material that you'd find on the paper. But I definitely want to go in there and, best I can, get rid of hard lines. And I sculpted these pages, and so they're going to have a thickness to them, even if I don't think that's necessarily great. I'm going to also do a ton of jumping around with layers to soften things, to thin things out. On a layer above these, I'm taking the dark color of the background there and going to thin out the page a little bit. And I tend to do this part very quickly because every little imperfection just makes it look more hand done. I mean, it is hand done, but I want to imply that it is created with traditional tools, less forgiving tools that don't have an undo function. That's a big chunky bit of material there. We're going to make that a little thinner here manually. I'm also going to go in there and put in my own harsh shadows using blue. It's fine that there are some in here already, kind of, sort of, but I like blue. There are some pieces in the book that are not based on 3D models that I've sculpted. Sometimes there are photographs. Like I'll purchase a photograph from Adobe stock or something like that, or take a photograph, a friend will pose, and I'll use that photograph as the basis for an illustration in the book. I was thinking about making that a tier inside the Kickstarter campaign, just because I thought this one in particular, the idea with this next book is that it's the meta domain cleric. These are clerics who think this all might be a game, and so it's kind of probably expert level role playing required, not for the faint of heart. And I was thinking about offering as a tier being drawn in the book, because I can't think of anything more meta than that. Like if there's a scene, the scene I'm picturing is a lot like Clash of the Titans, where the gods are just sitting around a game board and the characters are just pieces on the board. And I thought that would be amazing, is to basically figure out the poses of the various gods, 3 to 5 gods, 3 to 5 titans, and have them standing around the board, where you'd see maybe the Intoximancer figure, maybe the 2 death-dealing rogues, as if they were, painted minis. And then you'd have people in the book who are illustrated as the titans standing over them. It might be a good thing for the back cover of the book. It's a very dark shadow. I don't think I want that there. I'm going to paint that out. There are all sorts of little odd artifacts that come out when 3D sculpting. Especially with this program, because it does so much to approximate shading and approximate depth. And so sometimes that stuff is a little bit wonky. It's a fairly common tier. Yeah, I've seen that with like some people, like in comics, certainly. There was a friend of mine who had one that was like, and at this tier you get killed in the story. Presumably. So I sample that color. When you see a moment there, I'm pressing with and holding with my finger for a moment. And then that little circle pops up. That samples the color. And so I can work with the sampled color to blend them together in a way that is not quite so rough. But I didn't know, tell them that was done in some of these, in any of the RPG or gaming spaces. I like to think I'm bringing some stuff from the comic book world over to the gaming side, and hopefully we'll do the opposite as well. Just trying to soften that edge where there's a little bit of a shadow coming from somewhere. So, presumably this edge here is a light blue from the light that we had on the far right. But I really like how vanilla and painterly this light looks here on the edge of these pages. So I'm going to use that up the side of the page as well to hopefully create that effect right there. Almost all this work is being done on a separate layer. So if I end up not liking it for any number of reasons, it's easy for me to fix. What is this? What do we got going on here? So how many of you are actually handing out candy tonight? There are very few kids in my neighborhood. And so I've set up a few years trying to hand out candy. It just doesn't work out. There's just never enough kids here. The first year I decorated, I had all the stuff ready, and it was like, at the end of the day, nobody came. So it was like, okay, I can't eat that much candy. No, I take that back. I shouldn't eat that much candy. Okay, on that layer with the book, I'm going to use the eraser tool. I'm using the same round brush that I use for painting, and I'm going to erase with it to thin out this little note. Moose. Shane says, I'm not, but we'll be going to the store tomorrow. You're wise. We have some children in the neighborhood, but in general, we pretend like we don't exist. But fair. Moose says, not I. The stairs to my house are a death trap for kids, and it's too cold to sit on the base of the stairs. I left out candy in a bowl a few years ago, and it lasted 30 minutes. Not worth it. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Down here in Florida, it's a lot of trunk-or-treating. You know, antisocial trick-or-treating. Or a way to protect your kid from monsters. Tonight on Fox News. Are strangers putting ChatGPT in your kids' candy? What you need to know. In a few hours. Not now. You don't need to know it now, but in a few hours you absolutely need to know. Welcome back, Cave. So, Cave, do you get any trick-or-treaters in your neck of the woods? I figure in about 4 hours I'll be Googling lethal amount of Sour Patch Kids, question mark? Almost none. My landlords are sitting up there ready to hand out. Huh. And I feel like the whole trunk or treating thing is not great. I feel like, where's the risk? mean, this when I was a kid, it left a very clear message that chocolate was worth getting abducted for. I went for a walk. Only two families walking around with kids. Never take candy from strangers unless they offer you. Yeah, and I was like, I just want to make sure you offer only the good stuff. Necco wafers, circus peanuts. Has anyone here seen that the new Indiana Jones, not no longer new, newish Indiana Jones movie? I keep seeing it advertised on the various streaming platform like iTunes and stuff like that, and I don't know whether it's worth checking out. Again, anyone who thought, this weekend I was supposed to be at the Twin Cities Comic Con. I've had to cancel it because of a burst water pipe here at my home. So, unfortunately, I hope people still go. I hope it's a great show, but I just can't be there this year. I think this was their inaugural year. But the organizers were very nice. They've said, just let me know about the next show I want to do. So that's super nice. Yeah, Shane, that's how I feel. I'm like, ugh, I have such fond memories of the thing. I probably should just watch Raiders again. Raiders and Last Crusade. Temple of Doom is not my favorite. I mean, it's better than Space Ant, Giant Ant Space Alien Garbage Plot. Yeah. I was a that was a big disappointment. I do wonder about watching some things like that that just really that strike me as very disappointing, and wondering if it's just did I raise the bar too high, or did I set the expectations too high? Like, am I not being fair to the film? But I kind of feel like that one I gave every chance to, and it was just like, oof. As I heard someone say the other day, big shiny oof. Yeah, that movie was the Raiders was so good. It was such a important movie when I was a kid. It's weird that people can make something that just misses the people who made the thing cannot understand what they've done, and or they just think, oh, you're not going to pigeonhole me. Midi-chlorians it is. I just don't want to watch the most recent one and find out it's Indiana Jones and they attempt to capitalize one more time before you. Yeah. Yeah. I think part of it was that Last Crusade did such a good job signing off on the series. Going to soften that shadow. I'm going to paint my own shadow in there. That was created by the 3D program. It's fine, but I want to put a more harsh shadow in. So I want a layer set to multiply with that nice dark blue. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit, or a lot bit. But I know I sang Cave's praises before, but if you ever set up at a comic convention or a gaming convention and you need a wigman for your table, Cave is great. Immediately talking to people as they came up to the table. Sometimes I didn't even know they were there, and he's already started a conversation with them talking about why they should pick up my books. Such a nice guy. That was well, I've talked about I think in Artist Alley, I probably said this here on the channel before, but in Artist Alley, after like a 2-day show, even a 3-day show, after one day of sitting next to each other in Artist Alley, you've heard the other person's spiel, you know what their product's about, you've heard them describe it again and again and again. If on Sunday or half the way through Saturday, if every artist just moved over one table, I think they could sell 5 times as much stuff. I think not having your ego wrapped up in what you're selling, not being self-effacing, but being more confident about it and being, mostly just not speaking from a point of vulnerability. This is my book, if you buy it, I'll feel really good, and if you don't, I'll feel really sad. Yes, that's my sales pitch. I know it needs some work. Hey. This is the thing I made. If you buy it, you'll have it, and I'll have the money. If you don't buy it, I'll just be here. Have a nice day. Yeah, that definitely needs work. And, yeah, Cave was great. So I was really on the fence about canceling the convention this weekend, but I just could not swing it with the work being done by the cleanup crews the next few days. And part of it is I just don't want people coming in and out of my home while I'm not here. I don't mistrust anybody, but I'm just like, don't mess up my stuff. So a new diner opened up right by me. It seems pretty cool. I stopped in for the first time today, and they were closing in about half an hour. Well, yeah, let me give you a classic. What would be a classic diner order? Like a tuna salad sandwich. Let's see if I get botulism. And I order. The person says, oh, I don't know if we have that. So it's a brand new place. I don't blame them for not knowing. But I said, yeah, I haven't seen a menu, and they bring it to me, and it's a single page, and I'm like, oh, this isn't a diner. A diner has to have 80 pages of menu. It has to have tuna salad sandwich. In Florida? What are you people thinking not having that on the menu? 2/3 of these people are from New York. Patty melt. Good call. But of the people who did come, and again, thank you again, Moose and Shane, for paying them to come by my table. Those who were familiar with Intoximancy had lots of nice things to say about it. So it was really, really excellent show. I left it pumped. Let's put in some more shadows. I know. Just drawing a book. Not the most exciting stuff, but I feel like these are kind of the bulk of the content of a D&D book is just the magic items. I don't think they're that fun to sculpt or paint, but I don't know. I was watching a video of a guy on YouTube. I was very impressed with it. It was a California artist, illustrator, who went to Dragon Con and made $18,000. And, that was before some expenses. And it kind of went into the expenses and the income from Dragon Con. And they just did great. They even paid their assistant very well, I thought. Lots of cost-saving tips, like splitting an Airbnb with like 13 other people. Some of that's harder to do as I get older and more crotchety. But I was really impressed at of the amount of money and how they managed to move that much material to the convention to begin with. Yeah, Inkwell. That was it. I was unfamiliar with them until the video. I just watched it yesterday. I didn't quite get to see all their artwork, but the presentation was lovely. The booth looked great. They made excellent use of their space. And they were saying that they were having issues selling directly, and so having an assistant there who's capable of selling and working the crowd, and then providing a commission for sales above a certain part. What are you doing here? Wonder what that was. Undo. All of it seemed really reasonable. The production values on the video were nice. I mean, it was largely a lot of shots from the convention center or traveling around or getting to the Airbnb. Overall, very nice. Exciting to see. I like when people crack these codes and then share them with others. So I'm hoping more people succeed the way they are. Very memey. Yeah, the titles are really good. I can see why people would view them and why the algorithm would recommend them. I was unfamiliar with their videos up until then. But set up at San Diego Comic-Con, and their work seems excellent. Okay, so what I have to do is I'm going to bring this into a vector program and create guidelines on the book so I can have a grid to work from. So when I put runes and drawings and things on this book, it will feel as if it's properly in perspective. I wouldn't want to freehand it. And creating that kind of grid is super easy. You basically you create a line there, and then you create another line here, and then you blend them together in Illustrator. Now Illustrator won't push them back into perspective, so like if it puts a bunch of lines in here, they will be equidistant to each other. They won't get progressively tighter as if in perspective. And once I have that grid, then I can flip it because both sides should be roughly symmetrical. But I do need to create a bring that shadow down a little bit more. I think if I create like a glow over the whole thing. I don't want it to be too far off the title of the book because I don't want these effects to I don't want to have to worry about wrapping text around them, or part of the idea of keeping the book nice and flat was going to allow it to how much is on that layer? Just that. Okay, good. Let's try this. But laying it flat meant that it could be at the bottom of a page and look all right. But I still want to do the fronts of some books so you can see various covers. Try this. We'll set up perspective, canvas, drawing guide, edit drawing guide, perspective. How are we doing? Definitely have to drink more coffee. Alright, so I'm painting those in, then I'm going to use a large watercolor brush and with an eraser, and I'm going to soften the edges of it. So hopefully create the radio, that kind of glow, but at the same time not, hopefully not be too hokey. Well, I don't hate that so far. Well, that explains it. I never set those to be assisted, so I just kind of winged it. So that layer was just set to kind of freehand-it, and it was fine, but didn't quite have the, didn't follow the same radii as everything else. Radii? Radiuses? Radio Shacks? I don't know. My goodness. Alright, so who's streaming now? I'm hitting a wall. It's an exhausting week, but with all the construction and repair work being done here. So I'm going to see if I can find a nice stream we think we can raid. Oh, I just saw a photograph of David. He's out there handing out, it's snowing and he's handing out candy. How about that? Fantastic. Thank you everybody who came by. I'm going to be posting a GameholeCon report tonight, and I'm also going to be sending along more death dealing loot. So if you back the death dealing campaign, if you still want to, you go to deathdealing.com. But I'll be sending out more rewards. So if you haven't seen yours yet, keep an eye out for a tracking number. The radiant glows on that thing. Clearly, I'm exhausted. I'm not even seeing the asymmetry of it. I'll fix all that. Oh boy, that's too much. hope you all get tons and tons of candy. Hope you have a lovely night. Let's see if there's someone we can raid. Anyone on here? And just, if you're on the YouTubes, thank you for being here. This part of raiding will mean nothing to you. I'm glad things are working here. Let me pop that back up again if I can. Thank you to I Am Cosmo for following. You are awesome. And I think we're approaching 300 followers here. I'm not sure what that amounts to. I think for every 10,000 followers you get one viewer, something like that. Monument Hobbies looks like they're painting some stuff. Penny Arcade is playing Mech Warrior. The Dungeon Dudes are just dungeon duding. Well, the Dungeon Dudes. I ran into them at Game Hole Con. They're lovely people. Let's just go see what they're up to. And usually, whenever I raid somebody, they immediately log out. Or they're already in the process. Okay. Raid Dungeon _dudes. I remember. Alright, everybody. Thank you for being here. You're lovely. Lovely people. And I will see you all on Thursday. Thanks again. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Cave. Thanks, Moose, Telemont, Eric. You're all lovely. And see you next time.